Rushing to catch her train, Veronica drops her wallet at the station. A grimy girl returns it to her, unexpectedly whispering, "Don't get on the train, go home and hide under the bed. Don't ask, you'll understand everything later." Veronica waves her hand but doesn't board the train. Lying under the bed in her apartment, she already thinks she's going crazy. And then she hears, "Hello, you're watching the Life and History channel. Before we begin, please tell us where you're watching from. Thank you for being with us. We wish you a pleasant experience listening to this life story." Veronica raced along the platform, clutching her bag tightly in her right hand and her crumpled ticket in her left, which she checked every now and then, as if afraid it would disappear. The Moscow station in St. Petersburg was bustling, as always, in the morning hours. Overhead, train arrival and departure announcements boomed, merging into a monotonous hum. Crowds of passengers streamed in every direction. Shrugs bumped, elbows pushed, some cursed, some laughed, some tried to call. The air hung thick with a cocktail of smells, familiar to every station regular. Coffee from the small kiosk next to the exit, damp asphalt after a night's rain, diesel fuel from smoking locomotives, the sweet aroma of freshly baked goods from a nearby bakery, and the barely perceptible scent of wet clothes from the crowd. The clock on the huge overhead display showed 10:15. The train to Riga departed at precisely 10:20. Just 5 minutes to get through security, find her carriage, and take a seat. Just don't be late. Just don't be late, Veronica repeated to herself like a mantra, squeezing through the dense human traffic. She practically ran, jumping over suitcases, apologizing to those she accidentally bumped into. Working at an advertising agency for 3 years now had her constantly on the go. Presentations, negotiations, filming, business trips. Today's trip to Riga was just one of many. But for some reason, today in particular, a particularly acute, almost painful sense of urgency and anxiety settled within her. Her husband, Anton, was left at home, and everything had been going wrong with him lately. Petty squabbles over nothing, over who forgot to buy milk, who didn't answer a text on time, who stayed at work too late. His late return was delayed at the office. The meeting was dragging on. She needed to help her friend. Her growing suspicion, like a snowball, which she diligently pushed away, convincing herself it was just fatigue, just nerves, just a midlife crisis. I need to unwind, get a change of scenery, get distracted, she thought, quickening her pace even more, almost breaking into a run, and then a sharp push on her shoulder. Her bag swung, brushed against someone's elbow, and at that very moment, Veronica felt something small, flat, and important slip out of her coat pocket and fall down into this seething human river. It took her a moment to realize what she had lost. Only after 10 meters, when she mechanically reached for the phone in the same pocket, her fingers encountered nothing. A red, worn wallet, the one she'd been carrying for 4 years. Inside was her passport, all her cards, her driver's license, almost $20,000 in cash, and a small photo of her and Anton against the backdrop of a Neva, taken at the very beginning of their relationship. Her heart sank, somewhere in her stomach. Veronica stopped abruptly, spun around, looking around in panic. The platform seemed endless, an endless gray ribbon along which hundreds of people streamed. Everyone was moving, everyone was hurrying somewhere, and no one was looking down. Where is he? Where? Damn it, damn it, damn it, she screamed silently, feeling her palms instantly become wet with sweat. Auntie, is this yours? A thin voice rang out right at her feet. Veronica looked down. A girl of about 10, maybe a little older, stood before her. Grimy, covered in gray-black stains, as if she'd just crawled out of a coal pit or an abandoned basement. She wore an old, stretched-out, mouse-colored sweater with a torn sleeve, dirty sneakers, and her hair was tangled and dark, with strands stuck to her temples. Her face was covered in soot, but her eyes, huge gray-green, looked up with a seriousness that was uncommon in children. In her hands, she held Veronica's purse. "Oh, my God, thank you," Veronica breathed, snatching it up. You saved me, honey. Where did you find it?" The girl didn't answer, only looked up with large, serious eyes. There was something unchildlike and adult about them, as if she'd seen too much for her age. Veronica rummaged through her purse and pulled out a 2,000 ruble bill. "Here, take this, please. Buy yourself some ice cream, some chocolate, whatever you want. You're a great girl, a real resourceful girl." The girl shook her head, taking a step back. The crowd around them was seething, but at that moment everything seemed to freeze. The girl leaned closer, and Veronica felt her breath, cold as an autumn wind. "Don't get on the train," she whispered barely audibly. "Go home and hide under the bed. Don't ask, you'll understand everything later." Veronica froze, staring at her. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" flashed through her mind. Veronica froze, staring at the girl with wide eyes. The girl looked like a typical street child, the kind that wander around train stations begging for change, sometimes stealing. Maybe she was repeating lines from some scary movie she'd seen on TV at the shelter or on the street. Maybe it was a way to scare her, to get more money out of her later. But there wasn't a hint of cunning, not a hint of a smile in her eyes, only seriousness. "Little girl, what do you mean?" Veronica asked, leaning over. "Who taught you that?" But the girl had already turned and dived into the crowd like a shadow. Veronica tried to call out to her, but the roar of the station drowned out her voice. The train blew its whistle on the platform, the final signal to depart. Veronica stood clutching her purse, her heart pounding. What nonsense! The grimy girl was probably crazy or high. Under the bed at home. Like in a childhood nightmare. She shook her head, trying to push the words away. No time for nonsense. Work awaits. The presentation in Riga was tomorrow morning. Veronica took a step toward the carriage, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. Something in the girl's whisper caught her attention. Not the words, but the tone, as if she knew something important, personal. What if this isn't a joke? What if something happens on the train? An accident? "No, that's nonsense." The conductor waved his hand. "Go ahead, we're leaving." Veronica hesitated. She remembered Anton last night, his strange look as she packed her things. "Why do you need to go? Stay," he said, unusually softly. He usually scolded her for her business trips, and those late-night calls he'd rejected, suspicions she'd pushed away. Maybe she should go back and talk to him. The train started moving. The carriages glided past Veronica one after another. She stood on the platform, unable to look away. The wind from the departing train fluttered the hem of her coat, throwing fine drops of rain mixed with dust and the smell of hot brakes into her face. The locomotive's whistle echoed off the station walls and carried away into the distance like a farewell cry. Damn, what am I doing? Because of some girl I saw for 30 seconds? But doubt grew inside her, like a lump in her throat. She turned and headed for the exit, calling a taxi home. I'll just check, that's all. I'll see that the apartment is empty, that Anton is at work as usual. I'll laugh at myself, and then I'll rebook my ticket for the evening or night one. Everything will be fine. The ride home seemed like an eternity. The city flashed by outside the window. Gray houses, wet streets, people under umbrellas. Veronica sat in the back seat, fiddling with her phone. Should she call Anton? Tell him she's back? No, a surprise would be better. Under the bed. Nonsense. I'm crazy listening to this. But the girl's words swirled in my head like an obsessive melody. Who was she? How did she know about me? Maybe she saw me drop my wallet and just decided to joke. Or no, don't think about it. The taxi stopped in front of their 5-story building, a typical Khrushchev-era apartment building on the outskirts with peeling yellow paint on the walls and broken light bulbs in the entryway. Veronica paid with a card and stepped out into the light rain. The entryway greeted her with the familiar smell of dampness and yesterday's borscht from the neighbors below. She climbed up to the 3rd floor, trying to step quietly, almost on tiptoe. The key turned in the lock with a soft, barely audible click. The door opened silently. It was empty inside. Anton was at work, as usual. Veronica dropped her bag in the hallway and went into the bedroom. The bed was large with a wooden frame, and underneath it was dust and old boxes. Hide under the bed. I'm a grown woman, a sales manager, and I'm going to hide like a child. This is ridiculous. But the doubt persisted. She knelt down and looked under the bed. It was dusty and cramped, but there was enough space. Okay, I'll lie there for 5 minutes, make sure there's nothing, and then laugh at myself. Veronica sighed, pulled off her coat, and crawled under the bed. She felt like a complete idiot. Her heart was pounding. Dust tickled her nose. What am I doing? I'm going crazy. Anton will come back. He'll see. He'll think I've gone crazy. Or, what if the girl is right? What if something is wrong at home? Time dragged on. Minutes seemed like hours. Veronica lay there, staring at the springs of the mattress, thinking. Whirlwind, the train station, the girl, Anton. She recalled little things, his secret text messages, the money that had disappeared from her wallet last week. Paranoia, all paranoia. But suddenly, a quiet, distinct click was heard in the hallway. The key turned in the lock. The door opened. There were more than one footstep. 2. Heavy, confident. Anton's, and light, almost dancing, a woman's. Anton's voice. Come in, darling. She's gone for the whole day. Veronica froze, her breath caught. A woman's laughter. Familiar? No, alien. Alone at last, the woman cooed. The footsteps approached the bedroom. Veronica squeezed her eyes shut so tightly that red circles danced before her eyes. She tried to breathe silently, although her lungs were burning. Footsteps in the hallway, heavy, confident. Anton's, and light, almost dancing, another one. Women's heels clicked on the parquet floor like a metronome. It's so cozy here, the woman drawled in a low, slightly husky voice. So your wife is in Riga until this evening? Until tomorrow, Anton answered calmly, as if discussing the weather. She has an important meeting with a client there. She won't be back until then. I even checked her ticket myself. Veronica felt the blood drain from her face. He spoke so casually, as if infidelity were just another line on the schedule. She heard them enter the bedroom. The mattress above her creaked. Someone sat on the edge of the bed. Are you sure she didn't suspect anything? The woman asked. There was a mocking tone in her voice, almost a sneer, as if the very idea that Veronica might notice anything seemed amusing to her. Veronica, Anton chuckled. She's too busy with her career to notice such trifles. I told you so. She doesn't even ask where I am at night. She thinks I sit in the office until late, closing projects. She believes everything I say. Too trusting, too proud to delve into my life. Veronica bit her lip until it bled. Memories flooded back. His meeting until midnight, the smell of someone else's perfume on her shirt, which she attributed to colleagues, his sudden tenderness last week. Let's go somewhere together, honey. It was all a mask. She believed because she wanted to believe. So what now? The woman asked. We wait until she quits. Or nothing, Anton interrupted. Everything is according to plan. In a month, she'll sign a loan to buy an apartment. It's a sizable sum, she'll take it herself, because she needs to invest in the future. Then there's divorce, division of property. She won't even argue much, too proud to humiliate herself in court. He didn't finish. Instead of words, there was the sound of a kiss, wet and long. Veronica covered her mouth with her hand to keep from screaming. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't let them flow, afraid they would hear a sob. The mattress creaked again. They lay down. Veronica could only see their feet dangling over the edge of the bed, his in the gray socks she'd washed yesterday, hers in black tights with a small run. You know, the woman whispered, I sometimes wonder what if she comes back early. She won't, Anton snapped confidently, almost irritated. The train just left. I checked the schedule myself online. She's not the type to change plans on the fly. She's too organized. Veronica huddled. That was it. The girl at the station knew the train was a trap, knew Anton was waiting for this exact moment. But where from? Who was she? Something began overhead that made Veronica want to disappear into the ground. Whispers, giggles, cooing. She forced herself to think about anything. Work, the presentation in Riga, the fact that she'd forgotten to buy milk. But the sounds penetrated everywhere, like poison. At some point, she heard Anton say, "After all this, we'll go to Tallinn to your sister. No one will find us there." A new city, a new life. "And the money?" the woman asked. "There will be," Anton answered with a slight grin. "She'll bring it herself. The loan to buy the apartment will be registered in her name, and then I'll withdraw the money from our joint account. There's already a decent amount there. We'll leave, and the lawyers will handle the divorce under a power of attorney, and half of the property will go to me by law, and that fool will be left with nothing. Let her prove in court that I was the one who withdrew the money. Without evidence, it's empty words. Everything is thought out, down to the last detail." Veronica choked. Not betrayal, not just betrayal. It was calculation, a cold, cynical plan. She wasn't a wife, but an asset on the balance sheet waiting to be cashed. The time under the bed dragged on unbearably. Minutes turned into hours. Veronica couldn't feel her legs anymore. They were numb, but she was afraid to move. Finally, everything above her went silent. Heavy breathing could be heard. They were asleep. Veronica waited a long time until she was sure the breathing was even and deep. Then she slowly, millimeter by millimeter, crawled to the edge of the bed and stuck her head out. Anton was lying on his back, the woman on his shoulder, facing the wall. Both were asleep. Veronica crawled out. Her legs were shaking so much she could barely stand. She tiptoed into the hallway, grabbed her bag and phone, opened the front door, closed it behind her quietly as a mouse, and went down the stairs without turning on the light. Only outside, under a street lamp, did she allow herself to burst into tears. Briefly, angrily, silently. The phone in her hand vibrated. A message from Anton. "Arrived fine. Write to me and let me know how you're settling into the hotel. Love." Veronica looked at the screen and felt something inside her break completely. She didn't answer. Instead, she opened her banking app and checked her account. The money was there. She walked through the night city, uncertain where she was going. The rain started falling again, a light, nasty rain. Veronica stopped at a closed cafe and leaned against the wall. One thought swirled in her head. The girl, that grimy girl from the train station. She knew, but how and why had she helped? Veronica took the wallet the girl had returned to her at the train station from her pocket. She opened it. Inside, between the cards, lay a small, crumpled note she hadn't noticed before. Veronica unfolded it with trembling fingers, written in a childish, scrawling handwriting. "If you read this, you've obeyed. Don't go home. Go to the old bridge near your house. I'll be there all evening. Come alone." Veronica looked up. The clock showed 10:17. She clutched the note in her fist and walked toward the bridge. The streets were cold and damp. The rain had turned to a drizzle that settled on her face in fine drops. Veronica walked quickly, almost running through the empty streets. The streetlights reflected in the black water like broken stars. She didn't look back, afraid that if she stopped, she would change her mind and return home, where Anton was now sleeping with that woman. The old road bridge stood dark and silent, rusty railings, peeling paint, graffiti on the concrete supports, the third bench to the left of the only working lamp. Veronica found it right away, metal with peeling green paint covered in graffiti. She sat down and hugged herself. The clock showed 23:48, but her heart was pounding so loudly that it drowned out the rumble of the occasional cars. If she doesn't come, Veronica thought, I'll just go anywhere. To Riga, to Tallinn, even to Moscow. I'll buy a ticket on the next plane or train. The main thing is to get away from him, from them, from all this. But deep down, she knew. She would wait, because the note was in her wallet, because the girl knew that Veronica would return home, because someone, Someone else was trying to save her. Exactly at midnight, footsteps were heard, light, cautious. Veronica jumped up. The same girl emerged from the darkness, still grimy, wearing the same tattered sweater. Only now she was carrying a small backpack and an old rolled-up blanket over her shoulder. "Have you come?" the girl said without a smile. Her voice was tired like an adult's. "Who are you?" Veronica sighed. "How do you know all this? About the train, about Anton?" The girl sat down on a bench and pulled her knees to her chest. "My name is Lena," she said quietly. "I live not far from your house, in the attic of the next building. There's a small window high up, right under the roof. You can see into your kitchen and your bedroom from it, if the curtains aren't drawn tightly. Sometimes they remain slightly open." Veronica felt the cold penetrate to the bones. "Were you peeping?" "Not on purpose. I just sleep there. When I can't sleep, I look in the windows. Other people have the lights on, it's warm. Someone is cooking dinner, someone is laughing. And then I saw him come with her. First once late in the evening, when you were already asleep. Then more often during the day when you were not there. I wanted to warn you earlier, but I didn't know how. And today I saw you running to the station with a ticket in your hand. I followed you on the bus. You ran, dropped your wallet. I picked it up and decided to try. Just try to open your eyes to what is going on." Veronica was silent. Everything that she considered her private life suddenly became visible to a strange child. It was humiliating and at the same time, saving. "Thank you. By the way, my name is Veronica. Why did you help me?" she asked quietly. Lena stared at the black water under the bridge for a long time. "Because I had a mother," she finally said. "She believed the man too. He also promised a beautiful life. Be patient. Everything will change soon. We'll leave, buy a house, live like normal people." She believed every day, and then my mother disappeared. She simply didn't come back from work. The police said she left, abandoned everything, didn't even take her things. I was little then. I was 7. I screamed that it wasn't true, that she wouldn't have abandoned me. No one believed it. They said it was childish fantasies, worries. Let the child calm down. And I found her bag in the basement. There was blood on it. But no one believed it. I was taken to a shelter, and he took all the money from the account and left for another woman. 6 months later, I ran away from the shelter. Now I live here, and I decided that if I see the same betrayal, I will try to warn him. Veronica felt her throat tighten. She wanted to hug the girl, but she sat tensely, not letting her. "And now what?" Veronica asked. "What should I do? He wants to withdraw all my savings from the account and take the loan money and run away." "I overheard the conversation with that girl. This is their plan. Do you have money?" "A little on the card and cash." "Okay, leave today. Right now. Don't come home, don't write to him, don't call. He will understand that you know, and then it will become dangerous." "And you?" Lena smiled wryly. "I'm always here." "Nobody's looking for me." Veronica shook her head. "No, you can't live in the attic. You're 10 years old." 11 already, Lena corrected. "And I know how to hide." Veronica stood up, having made her decision once and for all. "Come with me, at least for tonight. I'll rent a room in a motel or a hostel outside the city. It's safe there. And tomorrow? We'll think about it tomorrow. I'll contact my lawyer, initiate a divorce, file an application by mail or through Gossaslugi so I don't have to look Anton in the eye again. And my things, we'll take my things later. With the police if we have to." Lena looked at her with distrust. "You don't know me. I could be a thief or crazy." "You saved my life," Veronica said. "You could have passed by, you could have said nothing, but you came up to me. You returned my wallet. You wrote a note. That's enough for me to trust you." The girl was silent for a long moment, then stood up and slung her backpack over her shoulder. "Okay, but if anything happens, I'll run away quickly." They walked together. Veronica launched the taxi app, requesting a car to the nearest hotel on the outskirts of the city in the direction of Pulkovo. The car arrived 7 minutes later. Silence reigned in the cabin. Lena watched the landscape flash by outside the window, and Veronica looked at her own, still trembling hands. At the motel, they chose a double room. Veronica ordered food, hot soup, sandwiches, and tea. Lena ate greedily but carefully, as if afraid she might be deprived of food. Then she went to take a shower. When she emerged in Veronica's oversized t-shirt with damp hair, she looked almost like an ordinary girl. Veronica sat on the bed staring at her phone. Anton texted 3 more times. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Veronica, what's going on? You're scaring me." She didn't answer. Opening her banking app, Veronica transferred almost all the funds from her main account to her reserve account, the one she'd opened 2 years ago just in case, when their first disagreement had begun. Back then, she'd dismissed it as paranoia. Now she was grateful every second. Lena lay down on the second bed, curled up under the thin blanket. "Tomorrow," she said sleepily, already closing her eyes. "I need to figure out how to get your things." "Safely. And how do you get far away?" "Very far away." Veronica nodded. "Tomorrow." She turned off the light. Lena's even breathing could be heard in the darkness. Veronica lay with her eyes open, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to consider a plan, not rage, but cold, precise calculation. Anton wanted to take everything, the apartment, the money, her happy life. She would take away his illusion of impunity. The morning at the motel was gray and quiet. Veronica woke up first. Lena was asleep, curled up under a thin blanket, her face finally relaxed, free of its eternal wariness. Veronica looked at her for a long time, the girl who lived in the attic, peeping into strangers' windows and saving strange women because she had once failed to protect her own mother. Veronica felt something warm and determined rise within her. She would no longer be a victim. And Lena, too. She quietly stood up and walked out onto the balcony of her room. Wet asphalt, rare cars. The phone in her hand showed 10 missed calls from Anton and 1 voicemail. She turned it on at minimum volume. "Veronica, this isn't funny anymore. Where are you? I'm calling the police and telling them you're missing. Answer, please, tell them you're okay. I'm worried." The voice sounded calm, even gentle, professional. Veronica smiled silently. She recorded a reply, short and cold. "Don't look for me. I know everything. The apartment, the insurance, the plan. If you call the police, I'll tell them the same thing, only with details and evidence. Goodbye." She sent the message and immediately deleted the number from her contacts. Then she wrote a short letter to a lawyer she had once consulted with at work and knew quite well. "Please urgently prepare a petition for divorce and division of property. I suspect my husband of fraud. Attached is an audio recording of the conversation." The voices of Anton and the woman on the recording were clear, recognizable. A step-by-step plan, enough for a criminal case, if you wanted, an attempt at fraud, pure and simple. Lena woke up and stretched. "Are you up yet?" she asked. "Yes, it's time to act." They had breakfast in the room, coffee from the machine, croissants from the minibar. Veronica outlined the plan. Lena listened attentively, like a general. "First things," she said. "Do you have a key to the apartment?" "Yes, a spare." "Then we'll go during the day when he's at work. I know what time he leaves. I've seen him 100 times. Let's go in, take your documents, laptop, clothes, and my bag. It was left in the attic. And if he hasn't left, then we wait or do something else." They returned to the city by bus. Veronica put on dark glasses and a hood. Lena put on an old cap she found in the room. The entrance looked as usual, the smell of damp strollers at the entrance. Veronica opened the apartment door with a key. It was quiet inside. Anton was gone. His jacket was not on the coat rack. In the kitchen was an empty coffee mug. They worked quickly. Veronica collected the documents: flash drives, laptop, her favorite jacket, passport. Lena stood by the window, watching the street. "The car pulled up," she suddenly said quietly. Veronica froze. Her heart sank. He shouldn't have been back so early. They heard footsteps on the stairs, the key in the lock. Veronica grabbed Lena by the hand and pulled her into the bedroom. They dove under the bed, the very one where Veronica had spent the most terrifying hours of her life. Dust filled her nose again, but now it was not humiliating, but familiar. The door opened. Anton entered, alone. His voice was tired, angry. "Veronica, are you here? I know you're back. The neighbor said she saw you enter the building with some girl. Come out, we need to talk." He walked into the bedroom. Veronica saw his expensive shoes. She had once given him them for his birthday. He stopped by the bed. "I know you're under the bed. Your bag is there. Come out." Veronica felt Lena trembling next to her, but not from fear, but from rage. Anton leaned over. His face appeared in the gap, red, angry. "Stop hiding, it's over." "Give me back the phone and transfer the money, or—" He didn't finish. Lena suddenly stuck out her hand. It was holding a can of pepper spray, old and worn. She pressed it. Anton howled and clutched his eyes. Veronica rolled out from under the bed, jumped up and grabbed Lena's hand. "Let's run!" They flew out into the hallway. Anton screamed behind him, coughing and cursing. The door slammed. They ran down the stairs, not waiting for the elevator. A taxi was waiting for them outside, which Veronica had ordered in advance and left waiting around the corner. They jumped in. "To the airport," Veronica told the driver. "Quickly!" The car took off. Anton ran out of the building, but it was too late. He stood in the middle of the street, blinking his red eyes, and watched them drive away. At the airport, Veronica bought 2 tickets to Riga, the next flight out. Lena's passport was the main problem. The girl had no documents at all, no birth certificate, no passport, not even a school ID. Veronica had prepared for this conversation in advance. When it was their turn, she smiled at the girl behind the counter and spoke calmly but confidently. "Good afternoon. 2 tickets to Riga, please. This is my niece, Lena. We're flying to visit relatives in Riga. My grandmother is waiting there. The guardianship paperwork is being processed. She's with me temporarily. Here's my passport. Here's her birth certificate." Veronica handed over her passport and a pre-prepared printout, a fake scan of the birth certificate she'd made at the motel, forging the date and signature. Not perfect, but at a quick glance, it looked good enough. "You're on the channel Life in History. Thank you for watching." The girl behind the counter looked at Lena, then at Veronica. A flicker of doubt flashed in her eyes. Veronica added quietly, almost in a whisper, "She has a difficult family situation. We're taking her in for a while. I'll pay anything extra if needed. Just seat us, please." The money settled everything quickly and without unnecessary questions. Veronica handed over her card, paid for 2 seats, and even added an extra fee for the rush order. The girl nodded, validated the tickets, handed out boarding passes, and wished them a safe flight. Veronica exhaled. Lena remained silent the entire way to the gate, only squeezing Veronica's hand tighter. On the plane, for the first time in her life, Lena smiled timidly at the corner of her mouth. "Where to now?" she asked. "First to Riga. It's safe there, and I still hope to make it to the presentation. The contract is too important to lose. I'll apologize for being late. I'll say the train was delayed because of the weather, and then I'll file for divorce remotely. I've already written to my lawyer. I'll send the police an audio recording of Anton's conversation with that woman. He's unlikely to be jailed for one conversation, but a police report will definitely deter him from reckless behavior. He'll understand that I know everything and won't interfere, and we'll start over together. I'll arrange temporary guardianship. You won't live in the attic anymore. Ever." Lena looked out the window. Clouds floated beneath the wing. "What if he finds us?" "He won't. We'll be careful, and we'll have a real home." Veronica took her hand. Lena didn't take it away. The plane gained altitude. St. Petersburg remained below, a big city with big betrayals, and ahead was a clear, cloudless sky. Veronica closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was breathing freely.